Hello class and welcome to my cultural event presentation. Go ahead and jump right in here. My name is Monica Sharp and my Tlingit name is Shayetke. I am graduating this spring with a Bachelor of Community Advocacy and Social Policy, which I'm really excited about. I am Tlingit Indian from Alaska. My family is from the southeastern region of Alaska, a village called Angoon, and I currently reside in Wasilla, Alaska. So I wanted to give you a little overview of Alaska and the different Alaskan Native populations within the state and the different regions. They all have very different language, cultural practices, very, very diverse state. So up here in the northern Alaska, we have the Inupiaq and the St. Lawrence Island Yupik. Over here on the southwestern area, we have the Yupik and the Chupik. We also have in the Aleutian chain here the Unangin and the Sugpiaq people. And then in southeast Alaska, we have, where my family's from, we have the Eyak, Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian. And then here in the central interior region of Alaska, we have Anchorage, which is the biggest city in Alaska. And I actually live about 40 miles north of Anchorage in Wasilla, in a suburb of Anchorage. And we are traditionally living on traditional Dena'ina Athabascan land. So I decided to, because I live on the traditional Dena'ina land and I plan on living here and working here, I really wanted to get a sense of the cultural practices of the Dena'ina people, because this is a population that I'm going to be working with here in this area, the Native population. And so I decided to attend a beading circle. So the Athabascan population, they're very well known for their beautiful beadwork. So I was a little bit nervous about going to this beading circle, just knowing that, I'm kind of a beginner when it comes to beading. And, being that I'm not part of the Dena'ina Athabascan group, I was unsure if there were any language barriers or traditions and I just wanted to make sure that I was prepared and that I was respectful to the traditions that they included any of their activities. And when I contacted the facilitator of this event, she basically said that they share traditional foods that's usually pretty laid back. They provide all of the materials for the beading, and they do a beading circle, which is what they call it. And basically they just have discussion and they practice their traditional beadwork practices. So I attended this event on February 4th. This is the flyer that they gave. It was like I said, located at the Kanik Tribal Office, which is the tribe out here in the Wasilla area. And they did have a potluck style event. So I brought some fried bread, which is down here, this photo, if you could see it. And this is actually something very dear to my heart. This is my family's recipe. My grandparents passed it down to me. And so I was really happy to be able to share that part of my culture also. They also had pudding here, some traditional Athabascan pudding, as well as moose stew. And yeah, it was a great time. This is the setup. I went ahead and took a picture. They did give me permission to take photos, which was awesome. So during this time, I learned a lot about my experiences. So I learned I felt really welcome. So I must say I felt really welcome, and I felt like I was a part of my community, and that I was really making a positive difference by practicing the traditional Dena'ina cultural practices through beading. I felt very connected. I had a sense of connection and, while attending this event, because this is a culture that's so different than my own. And so I was able to learn a lot of new things about their culture. And although this was a beading circle, there was a lot of discussion that was involved during this time. So it was kind of a way for everyone to sit and bead. They discussed things about historical trauma. Mostly highlights were subsistence lifestyle, land management, and I really left there feeling a real sense of accomplishment. So one thing that I learned from the beading circle is that because it was a circle, it really made everyone feel included and open to sharing stories of healing. And that there's also, there's really power in a circle. The way that everyone went around, there was something about doing handwork also that allowed a more comfortable feel because no one was like looking directly at each other. There wasn't really much eye contact. So you really felt a lot more open to sharing, I guess, because it wasn't like people are looking at you and judging you. So the circle was really, really good. There was a lot of open discussions. They talked about life skills, parenting. There was a lot of laughing, and there was also some more serious topics to include, land separation, which I'll get into here in a bit, and also discussions regarding suicide. And so I feel like this was really a healing circle for this group. So one of the main strengths I feel after experiencing this was that the Dena'ina Athabascans are resilient. So they are so resilient. There was one story that a woman shared, and like I said, I did get permission to share this. So she stated that years ago, her family had lived in a cabin in Wasilla. They lived there and they grew up there in this cabin. So one fall, they left on a traditional moose hunt, which is very common here because the Alaska Natives do practice this subsistence lifestyle that they've been practicing for time immemorial. And so they went out on their moose hunt, and when they returned to a white settler living in their cabin. So they basically were like, what are you doing here in our cabin, And the man responded that he had bought the cabin and that it belongs to him now. So, of course, the family was very confused, and the man just basically said, I'm sorry, I bought it. And he gave them a pack of potatoes, a sack of potatoes for their troubles. So that treatment was that they endured. It was very painful to hear about. And I really felt a sense of healing, though, when she shared that story to everyone, because everyone that was there, they gave a sense of support. They showed support, and everyone shared. And so you just felt really open to sharing. And I really can't explain it, but there was a lot of healing in the circle. So we'll go ahead and go on to slide 5. So some of the policies and historical impacts, I wanted to share a quote that after I had, interviewed one of the participants of the event, and she stated, this is her quote, "Our land and subsistence way of life was taken over by non-native settlers and missionaries, but they could not take our traditions. Today, here, you see us practicing our traditional ways. Our people carry a lot of trauma. Historically, they went through a lot. We do these events to heal, not just for the Dena'ina people, but for everyone. Everyone is welcome." I really felt like this statement really showed a lot of the historical impacts that affected this population. And it's really shocking to realize that many of the policies that the Dena'ina people fought for historically are still problematic today, especially in relation to the subsistence lifestyle that they went through, that they were historically accustomed to, and also the lack of knowledge relating to the modern land claims and laws, as we heard from that story previously about them taking over the home that they had bought, from the state of Alaska, and just basically the trauma that they experienced from these experiences, and the effects from boarding schools as well. This just really shows that a lot of that historical trauma that they experienced. And so I had found this journal from 1979 called The Dena'ina and the Land by Stephen Benke. And he states, today, however, traditional ways of life based upon these resources and lands are threatened by game regulations, changing patterns of land ownership, and increasing competition from urban hunters. And I feel like this was written in 1979. And I just really feel like it's pretty much the same now from their stories that they were sharing in 2020 or 2020, So this is just, wow, it was just really eye-opening to see that it's so evident that the stories, that the issues that they shared are really still impacting the Dena'ina people today, and that there's a lot of healing that is being done around this. So some of my feelings and thoughts after the event, I really felt more prepared to work with the local population because I have a better understanding of their needs and of the historical trauma that's impacting the Dena'ina people. And I just, taking the time to understand their culture and to listen to their stories, I really feel a better connection to their needs and how to appropriately assist them in the social work setting. So what can social workers do to support the population of focus, right? So the way social workers can support this population is just to become knowledgeable about the historical trauma that was experienced by this population and to show empathy for this, because they have experienced a lot of abuse when it comes to boarding schools, assimilation, land claims, and just traditional ways. And we need to be open to traditional ways of healing also and incorporate that into practice. So overall, this really helped me to my future work as a culturally competent social worker, because I began to reflect on the readings in the Mariscalia and Kulis book. And there was a statement that really stood out to me regarding future work. It was integrating traditional ways of healing with social work interventions may increase success in work with members of traditional Native American communities. So this quote really inspired me because it opened up a lot of avenues within our social work practice, specifically relating to cultural appropriate interventions. And having that flexibility to incorporate traditional methods when working with our culturally diverse clients, as a social worker, I feel more empowered by having that ability to utilize those interventions that can effectively help families that we work with. It just kind of opens a lot of doors and a lot of possibilities for us as social workers to really look at those traditional practices, see what's working, look at the practices that they're using. And on with that, so being a change agent to me is speaking up against oppression rather than staying quiet. And imagine if we all spoke up about oppressed populations, we could really make a difference. Thank you so much.